Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, I'm going to answer the question or address the question, is it better to overtrain or undertrain? Before I get into that topic, if you guys have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos like this. If you need coaching, check out the link down below. I also have linked my new 28-day program. It's one of the best programs I've ever designed. I really liked putting it together. I think it's my best take on a conventional 5x5, so check that out down below. All right, so the question is it better to overtrain or undertrain? I've seen this in a video. I've seen somebody raise it, on a video comment, so I thought it would be a good topic to talk about. Let's just start by saying that anything I'm going to comment on in this video is a generalization. When you start to talk about overtraining, undertraining, or training in general, it can get fairly complicated fairly quickly, because when you take the same program, one program, and put 10 different people on it, they're going to train, basically, if you analyze how they're training, they're not all going to train equally. Some people are going to be pushing sets harder. Some people are going to be leaving a little bit more in the tank, etc. So there's a bit of generalization and some assumptions we have to make about training volume. Let's assume, to set the table, that regardless of whether somebody is overtraining or undertraining, in a perfect world, they are living in a perfect world where they are maximizing their training. They're getting the most out of their sets. They're getting the most out of their workouts. They have a focus during each set, a progression goal. They're not fucking around. They have a well-designed program, etc., a well-balanced program. We will establish that. So with that established, is it better to undertrain or overtrain? Well, if you're undertraining, there are some benefits. Generally, you're at a lower risk for overuse injuries. You're less likely to get beat up. You'll still make progress, right? You'll still make progress, but it'll probably be a little bit slower because your volume is not where it needs to be in a perfect world from a scientific standpoint when we look at hypertrophy. When we look at the information on hypertrophy, there's a certain amount of volume that's considered reasonable. So if we're pushing that volume, not just a little bit away from central, right? That's okay. But noticeably away from central, where we're undertraining or not doing really as much as we should in a session. Say you're training 25 to 30 minutes a session, you're going to see some progress as long as you are focused on progressive overload, but it's generally going to be a lot slower than you would like. There's only so many exercises you can fit into a protocol with very restricted sets. So you're obviously going to focus on compound movements. The number of compounds you're focusing on and the number of sets you're focusing on aren't going to equal even some of the minimal type of 5x5 programs. So let's establish that. You're going to be doing far less set work, less volume than those programs. So your gains are going to be a little bit slower. Overtraining has risks, obviously. Overuse injuries, beating up the body, punishment. This is a real thing. I started training in 1986 using a program like my Power Muscle Block System, and I did really well on that program for 18 months to 24 months. Never felt beat up, felt just fine, was training 4 days a week. I got a bug in my ass at the time to try push-pull legs, so I started training 3 on, 1 off, or 6 days a week. And I was progressing rather aggressively at the time, and it didn't take long, 3 or 4 months for me to feel extremely beat up. I threw out my lower back. I started to develop elbow tendonitis, etc. So overtraining, and let's stop here for a second, because we're not talking about textbook medical overtraining, right? We're talking about training more than we really need to get the results we want to build muscle. Let's establish that. We're not talking about textbook medical overtraining. So if somebody's doing far more volume than they need to, far more sets than they need to, obviously they're going to build muscle pretty optimally because we established that they're training hard, but they're also going to increase the risk, increase the likelihood of picking up overuse injuries or general strains and pains. So you have two people. You have the undertrainer who's doing less volume and fewer sets, and you have the overtrainer. He's not overtrained, but the overtrainer, the overzealous trainer, who is doing a lot more volume and a lot more sets. Both of these individuals are working very, very hard. They're maximizing everything. The undertrainer is obviously more is more likely to see a slower rate of progress than the overtrainer. So the overtrainer has an advantage, okay? An advantage as far as muscle building. But the issue becomes, how long can you sustain that? Because an integral part of muscle building is consistency over time, patience. If you're beat up, if you're injured, it's going to take you away from working out. Many of my clients have been lifting for a very long time, and they have injuries that prevent them from being very consistent with their legs, very consistent with their shoulders, etc. So overtraining can be good in the short run, but when you start to feel beat up, it's best to pull back. That's why we have some strength principles that involve overreaching and then kind of pulling back when you hit that wall or when you feel like you've gone too far. So, bottom line, what's the bottom line you're asking here? All right, we have all that established. We understand the overtrainer has a greater likelihood of building more muscle mass, but also a greater risk of injury. Pretty common sense, right? So what's the takeaway here? Well, the takeaway here is you probably want to be in the average range. You probably want to be in the normal range as far as volume and maximizing that volume. 9 to 12, 10 to 12, 12 to 15 sets max for major muscle groups, maybe 6 to 9 sets for minor muscle groups, etc. Somewhere in that range. I've made videos about this before. If you want to err a little bit on the side of a little bit more volume, that's probably going to be more beneficial than just than pushing way too much volume. So if you're somebody that's obsessed with volume, think a little bit more rather than a lot more. But at the end of the day, someone that's running about where they need to be from a volume standpoint or just a hair under is probably going to be the trainee that's going to make fairly optimal gains, and they're going to have a reasonably low injury risk. So overtraining versus undertraining, the answer is sane training, right near the middle. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.